Hey everybody, I'm here with a quick video on Diddy. They came out with this superseding indictment like they promised, and it's it's nothing, it's trash, right? They had two more victims. Rico, in case anybody doesn't know, it's an enterprise. Why are we still not getting the other people that's a part of this enterprise charged with anything? Just doesn't make sense to me. Now, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I'm starting to lean with these individuals that said 90% of his trouble is because he sued that liquor company, Diego. Now, I do think Cassie's case was a catalyst. It helped out. It gave Diego a leg up to kind of take him under the bus, so to speak. But I think his main problem was suing Diego because this lawsuit, I'm saying lawsuit, these charges just don't make sense. It don't make sense. And this is not Diva saying, oh, Diddy is innocent. A lot of guilty people are free just because, the government or whoever doesn't have enough evidence to charge them with anything. And so Diddy is kind of behind bars, and it's like, what do you have here? It's nothing. You took all of these months to have this superseding indictment to add two victims. It just doesn't make sense. Let me share a screen. We're going to get into it. So again, it's the United States of America versus just Sean Combs, Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, Diddy, PD, and Love. Now, I will say this. They're saying that all the way even up until 2024, which he's crazy, right? Because Cassie won her lawsuit in 2023. Up until 2024, they said he was still a terror. It's like when you are in trouble and you can still continue your bad ways and you're already in trouble, that's when you know the person got it bad. So for decades, Sean Combs, aka Puff Daddy, aka P. Diddy, aka Diddy, aka PD, aka Love, the defendant abused, threatened, and coerced women and others around him to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. To do so, Combs relied on the employees, they should be locked up, resources, and influence of the multifaceted business empire that he led and controlled, creating a criminal enterprise whose members and associates engaged in and attempted to engage in, among other crimes, sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. Sean Combs, aka, they give all his names, the defendant operated his business headquartered at various times in Manhattan and Los Angeles under a variety of United States-based corporate entities, including Bad Boy Entertainment, Combs Enterprise, and Combs Global, collectively the Combs Business. Corporate entities in the Combs Business included, among other things, record labels, a recording studio, an apparel line, an alcoholic spirit business, a marketing agency, and a television network and media company. At all times relevant to this indictment, Sean Combs, the defendant, engaged in a persistent and persuasive pattern of abuse towards women and other individuals. The abuse was at times verbal, emotional, physical, and sexual. As part of his pattern of abuse, Combs manipulated women to participate in orchestrated performances of S activity with Combs and at times with Combs and male commercial sex workers. At times, Combs and others acting at his direction made arrangements for women and commercial workers to fly to Combs' location. Combs ensured participation from the women by, among other things, obtaining and distributing narcotics to them, controlling their careers, leveraging his financial support, and threatening to cut off the same, and using intimidation and violence. Physical abuse by Combs. The defendant was recurrent and widely known on numerous occasions from at least in or about 2009 and continuing for years. Combs assaulted women by, among other things, striking, punching, dragging, throwing objects at and kicking them. Now, this part is based on Cassie and especially that video we saw of them in the hotel room. Because all of that happened. Combs' violence was also not limited to these women. It extended to his employees, witnesses to his abuse, and others. on one occasion at a Los Angeles hotel in and about March 16, which was captured on video and later publicly reported. Combs kicked, dragged, and threw a vase at a woman as she was attempting to leave, Cassie. When a member of the hotel security staff intervened, Combs attempted to bribe the staff member to ensure silence. Subsequently, Combs, with the assistance of several close associates, paid hotel security or staff $100,000 for the hotel surveillance footage of the assault. So, they need to be part of this too. Find them. Why? Because you accepted the bribe. You should have called the cops. You should have called the cops. The defendant used the Combs business, including certain employees, to carry out, facilitate, and cover up his acts of violence, abuse, and commercial sex. These employees, including security staff, household staff, personal assistants, and high-ranking supervisors, and other close associates, acted as Combs intermediaries, and their conduct was facilitated and assisted by Combs' control of the Combs business. The Combs enterprise. From at least in or about 2004 through in or about 2024, so they're saying 20 years, Combs, the defendant, and others, known and unknown, find the known ones, and find the unknown ones, were members and associates of the criminal organization. The Combs enterprise are the enterprise. When you're charging me with RICO, you better lock these people up too. Members and associates of the Combs enterprise engaged in and attempted to engage in, among other activities, sex trafficking, forced labor, interstate transportation for purposes of P, coercion and enticement to engage in P, narcotic offenses, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. The Combs enterprise, including its leadership, its members, and its associates, constituting an enterprise as defined by Title 18 of the United States Code. The defendant entities with the Combs business, including but not limited to Bad Boy Entertainment, Combs Enterprise, and Combs Global, individuals employed by associated with the Combs business, others known and unknown. The Combs Enterprise constituted an ongoing organization which members functioned as a continuing unit for a common purpose of achieving the objectives of the Combs Enterprise. The Combs Enterprise was engaged in its activities affected interstate and financial and foreign commerce. The Combs Enterprise operated in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere. At all times relevant to this indictment, Sean Combs, the defendant, was the leader of the Combs Enterprise. So it's wild. It's almost like they're saying he had a gang and he was the head gang member. Sean, the defendant, and others, known and unknown, participated in unlawful and other activities related to the conduct of the Combs Enterprise affairs. The individuals included certain Combs business employees, such as members of Combs security staff, household staff, personal assistants, and high-ranking supervisors, as well as other close associates of Combs. The purposes of the Combs Enterprise included the following: operating a global business in the media, entertainment, and lifestyle industries, including, among other things, record labels, a recording studio, an apparel line, an alcohol and spirits business, a marketing agency, and a television network and media company. Preserving, protecting, promoting, and enhancing the power, reputation, and brand of Sean Combs, aka Puff Daddy, aka P. Diddy, aka Diddy, aka P. D, aka Love, the defendant as a musician, entrepreneur, and figure in the entertainment industry. Enriching members and associates of the enterprise, including its leaders, Combs, and in particular those who demonstrated loyalty to Combs and willingness to conceal his crimes. Well, they should be locked up. Preserving, protecting, promoting, and enhancing the power of the Combs Enterprise, including the power of its leader, Combs through violence, use firearms, threats of violence, coercion, and verbal, emotional, physical, and SA. Fulfilling the personal desires of Combs, particularly those related to Combs' sexual gratification, including through the exploitation of women and the use of commercial S workers. Enabling Combs and other members and associates of the Combs Enterprise to engage in unlawful acts of violence, including S violence, S trafficking, forced labor, interstate transportation for the purposes of P, coercion, and enticement to engage in P, narcotics distribution, and other crimes, and concealing the commission of such acts. Securing absolute loyalty from members of the Combs Enterprise, including through acts of violence and threats. protecting the Combs enterprise and its members and associates, including Combs, from detection and prosecution by law enforcement authorities through acts of intimidation, manipulation, bribery, and threats of retaliation against individuals who witness the crimes committed by members and associates of the enterprise. Means and methods of the enterprise. Among the means and methods by which Sean Combs, the defendant, and other members and associates of the Combs enterprise conducted and participated in the conduct of the affairs of the Combs enterprise included the following. Combs and the members and associates of the Combs enterprise wielded the power and prestige of Combs' role at the Combs business to intimidate, threaten, and lure female victims into Combs' orbit, often under the pretense of a romantic relationship. Combs then used force, threats of force, and coercion to cause victims, including but not limited to 3 female victims. They added 2. Victim 1, Cassie Ventura. Victim 2, we don't know. And victim 3, to engage in commercial S acts. In connection with the commercial X acts, Combs provided the victims with, among other things, monetary payments, career opportunities, and payment of rent and housing expenses. Some of the commercial S acts involved male commercial X workers and were referred to by Combs as, among other things, freak-offs. Freak-offs were elaborate and produced as performances that Combs arranged, directed, masturbated during, and often electronically recorded. In arranging these freak-offs, Combs, with the assistance of other members and associates of the Combs enterprise, transported and caused to be transported commercial S workers across state lines and internationally. Freak-offs occurred regularly, sometimes lasted multiple days, and often involved multiple commercial S workers. During freak-offs, Combs distributed a variety of controlled substances to victims, in part to keep the victims obedient and compliant. Sometimes, unbeknownst to the victims, Combs kept videos he filmed of the victims engaging in S acts with commercial S workers. At the freak-offs, Combs and the victims typically received IV fluids to recover from the physical exertion and substance use. Members and associates of the Combs enterprise, including high-ranking supervisors, security staff, household staff, personal assistants, and other Combs business employees, facilitated the freak-offs by, among other things, booking hotel rooms for the freak-offs, stocking the hotel rooms in advance with the required freak-off supplies, including controlled substances, baby oil, lubricant, extra linens, and lighting, cleaning the hotel rooms after the freak-offs to try to mitigate room damage, arranging for travel for victims, commercial S workers, and Combs to and from freak-offs, resupplying Combs with requested supplies, delivering large sums of cash to Combs to pay the commercial S workers, and scheduling delivery of IVs in or about March 2024. During searches of Combs' residence in Miami, Florida, and Los Angeles, California, law enforcement seized various freak-off supplies, including narcotics and more than 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricants. Other commercial acts involved only Combs and a female victim. That's Cassie. As with freak-offs, other members and associates of the Combs enterprise assisted with arrangements for these commercial S acts, including by arranging travel and accommodations for victims. At times, Combs, with the assistance of other members and associates of the enterprise, transported and caused to be transported victims across state lines and internationally in connection with commercial S acts. Like the freak-offs, these commercial S acts involving Combs and a female victim were prearranged, sometimes lasted multiple days, were sometimes electronically recorded by Combs, and often involved Combs distributing a variety of controlled substances to the victim, in part to keep the victim obedient and compliant. Combs subjected victims to physical, emotional, and verbal abuse to cause the victims to engage in freak-offs and other commercial S acts. Combs maintained control over his victims through, and among other things, physical violence, promises of career and financial opportunities, granting and threatening to withhold financial support, and by other coercive means, including tracking their whereabouts, dictating the victim's appearance, monitoring their medical records. How do you monitor somebody's medical records? Controlling their housing and supplying them with controlled substances, During and separate from freak-offs and other commercial acts, Combs, among other things, hit, kick, threw objects at, and dragged victims at times by their hair. These assaults often resulted in injuries that took days or weeks to heal. Following the assaults, Combs, with the assistance of members and associates of the enterprise, frequently worked to conceal his misconduct by offering to provide medical assistance or other financial benefits to the victims. I mean, he wouldn't have got away with all of this if these people didn't help. And I feel like these people need to be in trouble too. Combs also threatened victims' careers and livelihoods, including if they resisted engaging in acts with Combs and at times with Combs and male commercial S workers. Victims believed they could not refuse Combs' demands without risking their financial or job security or without repercussions in the form of physical or emotional abuse. Combs also used the sensitive, embarrassing, and incriminating recordings that he made during freak-offs as collateral to ensure the continued obedience in silence of victims. Members and associates of the Combs enterprise, including Combs security personnel, at times carried firearms. On more than one occasion, Combs himself carried or brandished firearms to intimidate and threaten others, including victims of and witnesses to his abuse. In or about March 2024, during searches of Combs' residence in Miami, Florida, and Los Angeles, California, law enforcement seized firearms and ammunition, including three AR-15s with defaced serial numbers, as well as a drum magazine. Members and associates of the Combs enterprise enabled Combs control over victims by following his direction regarding financial payments to victims, advancing or suppressing the victims' career opportunities, and acquiring the controlled substances Combs used to keep the victims compliant. Members and associates of the Combs enterprise at times witnessed Combs violence toward the victims or the victims' injuries caused by Combs without intervening. Instead, members and associates of the Combs enterprise helped conceal the violence and abuse by, among other things, assisting Combs in monitoring and preventing victims from leaving locations such as hotels or Combs' residence. These occasions included instances in which a victim was required to remain in hiding, sometimes several days at a time, to recover from injuries Combs inflicted without being publicly observed. Members and associates of the Combs enterprise also assisted Combs in locating and contacting victims who attempted to flee his abuse. When employees, witnesses to his abuse, or others threatened Combs' authority or reputation, Combs and members and associates of the enterprise engaged in acts of violence, threats of financial and reputational harm, and verbal abuse. These acts of violence included arson and multiple acts of kidnapping, including one instance of kidnapping during which Combs carried and displayed a firearm. In addition, on multiple occasions, Combs threw both objects and people, as well as hit, dragged, choked, and shoved others. On one occasion, Combs dangled a victim over an apartment balcony. Oh, that is that, what is her name? Something Red friend, right? I remember this case. When Combs' authority or reputation was threatened by the possibility of negative publicity or legal or law enforcement action against him, including in or about late 2023, following public allegations of Combs' crimes, Combs and members and associates of the enterprise pressured witnesses and victims, including through attempted bribery, to stay silent and not report what they experienced or knew to the law enforcement. On phone calls, Combs and other members and associates of the enterprise, among other things, provided these victims and witnesses with a false narrative of events in an effort to conceal Combs' crimes. Combs caused these calls to be recorded on at least 2 occasions. I'm feeling like these are the calls they claim he was making from that Metropolitan Detention Center. And what is her name? Not what is from the people from the girls from Danity Kane. I want to say, oh no, the girls from Dirty Money. The one, that said Diddy didn't do anything to her. From at least in or about 2004 through or about 2024 in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere, Sean Combs, the defendant, and others known and unknown, being persons employed by and associated with the Combs enterprise described in paragraphs 6 to 12 of this indictment, and enterprise engaged in and the activities of which affected interstate and foreign commerce, knowingly combined, conspired, confederated, and agreed together and with each other to violate the racketeering laws of the United States. And they give the title. This is to conduct and participate directly and indirectly in the conduct of affairs of the Cone's enterprise through a pattern of racketeering activity as a term is defined in Title 18. I think they definitely probably going to get him on racketeering charges, and I think racketeering alone can get you 10 to 15 years behind bars. Multiple acts involving kidnapping, chargeable under the following provision of state law, California Penal Code, and it gives all the law for the kidnapping. Multiple acts involving arson, so they're doing multiple, and they give you the law for that. Multiple acts indictable under Title 18 United States Code, related to tampering with a witness, victim, or informant. I think he's cooked because they could probably get him on these things, these other little things easier. Multiple acts indictable under Title 18 related to forced labor, because a lot of people said he didn't pay them when he worked for them. Multiple acts under Title 18 related to sex trafficking. Multiple acts, again, under Title 18. This is related to transportation and inducement to travel for purposes of prostitution and other illegal sexual activities. Multiple offenses involving the possession and with intent to distribute or distribution of narcotics and controlled substances, including cocaine, oxycodone. He's in trouble because, he was highly addicted. And when he came to turn himself into New York, he had the substances in his hotel room. He's screwed. And it was part of the conspiracy that Sean Combs, the defendant, agreed that a conspirator would commit at least 2 acts of racketeering activity in the conduct of the affairs of the Combs enterprise. Notice of special sentencing factor. From at least in or about 2009 and up to including in or about 2018 in the Southern District of New York and elsewhere as part of his agreement to conduct and participate in the conduct of the affairs of the Combs enterprise through a pattern of racketeering activity, Sean Combs, the defendant, agreed to, in affecting interstate and foreign commerce, knowingly recruit, entice, harbor, transport, provide, obtain, advertise, maintain, patronize, and solicit by any means a person, knowing and in reckless disregard of the fact that means of force, threats of force, fraud, and coercion as described in Title 18. They're getting them a lot. And any combination of such means would be used to cause the person to engage in commercial act in violation of Title 18. Okay, so victim 1. The grand jury filed the charges. This is for victim 1 as trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, victim 1. From at least in or about 2009 up until including 2018, the Southern District of New York and elsewhere, Sean Combs, the defendant, in affecting interstate foreign commerce, knowingly recruited, enticed, harbored, transported, provided, obtained, advertised, maintained, patronized, and solicited by any means a person, knowing and in reckless disregard of the fact that means of force, threats of force, fraud, coercion, as described in Title 18. So this is all Cassie is victim number 1, saying he forced her to do everything. Count 3 is transportation to engage in P. They saying from 2009 to 2024. Forfeiture allegations as a result of committing the offense above. In count 1 of this indictment, Sean Combs, the defendant, shall forfeit to the United States pursuant to 18 section all interests of securities or claims against and property or contractual rights of any kind affording a source of influence over the enterprise name. Count 2 of the indictment. Substitute assets. Okay. Well, for us to have waited this long, this indictment really doesn't add any more any more substance. It just adds 2 more victims. I'm curious to know who these other 2 victims are. I've seen people get out of worse. Listen, OJ was accused of unaliving 2 people and he walked free. A lot has to do, depending upon your lawyer. A lot has to do is what hardcore evidence do they really have? They seize all these videos, but what do the videos really show? Because Diddy lawyers, they said they looked at the videos and they not showing nothing but him and Cassie having sex. Then they had the nerve to say it seemed like Cassie was enjoying it. You know, this is messy. That's the indictment there. His lawyers seem to not be worried. Let me just share a screen. We're not going to go through this whole article. But Diddy, 2 more female victims in new federal, also it's definitely 2 ladies, in new federal indictment. And pretty much his lawyers, that's when they picked them up. His lawyer is saying, this later indictment contains no new offenses. The prosecution theory remains flawed. The government has added this ridiculous theory that 2 of Mr. Cohn's former girlfriends were not girlfriends at all, but were sex workers. So now that gives us a clue, right? So victim 2 and victim 3 were former girlfriends that decided to, you know, I guess join in and help the Southern District of New York. So literally, they said this man has violated and arred so many people. So the best they got is giving us 3 former girlfriends to go against him. Why not get all of these? Because there's a lot of lawsuits against him, civil suits. And these people are straight up saying, he armed me. Why not have any of those as victims? This case is going to be very interesting. Listen, guys, chat with me in the comments. And when I get an opportunity, I will chat back. If you're not a subscriber, subscribe. Hit the notification bell so that every time I upload a video, you will be notified. If you are a subscriber, welcome back. Everybody, thanks for watching. Listen, guys, let me know your thought on this superseding charges. Interesting. All 3 are former girlfriends. They got all of these accusations against him. And to get their case, they got former girlfriends who now they're going to try to say were just paid workers. I don't know, y'all. Chat with me. I'll chat back. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.